Welcome to Real Truth Real Quick. My name is Rick Smith. I'm here with Todd Wagner. How you doing, Todd?
I am well, thank you.
All right. Well, today we're talking about two topics they say you're never supposed to talk about at our dinner table: religion and politics.
Yeah.
Should a Christian be involved in politics?
Wow. Okay, it is a controversial topic because I think it's so often misunderstood. A Christian should be concerned with the gospel of Jesus Christ. And the gospel of Jesus Christ has legs. It's got implications. Okay, we're to be doers of the word, not merely hearers who delude ourselves. And so it's important that we do what Isaiah says we should do in Isaiah chapter 1. We learn to do good. What's it mean to do good? To seek justice, right? To reprove the ruthless, defend the orphan, plead for the widow. I want to tell you something. There's a lot of women in India that are really glad that Christians got involved in politics, in being good citizens. That's what the word politic comes from, by the way. It means shrewd or prudent behavior in civil affairs. Okay? It comes from the Latin word, which means politic, which means citizen. Okay? So all politics is how does a good citizen live? We're called to be prudent and not be evil men, be wise in the way that we live. And so we better make sure that we engage. Why do I say that there's a lot of women in India who are glad Christians got involved in politics? Answer, because up till 1827, they burned widows with their deceased husbands. And Christians go, let's not do that anymore. Change that law. That's not that long ago, bro, right? Child abandonment and infanticide in 320-ish AD, okay? Christians said, we're going to put a stop to this in Rome. I think babies were really glad that Christians spoke up, all right? I think slaves were really happy that a Christian man, William Wilberforce, got engaged in being a prudent and shrewd, wise man in civil affairs and said, we can't treat human beings like this. We got to speak up. Martin Luther King Jr. rebuked the church, rightly so. The Southern Baptist Convention rightly just confessed it was off the mark in some of the way its churches and leaders handled the whole civil rights movement and the way that there was still rampant racism and Jim Crow laws and craziness that was in the South. Martin Luther King said, hey, I think in the end, we're not just going to have to seek forgiveness for the vitriolic and violent behavior of bad men, but for the silence and indifference of good men. And when you get Christians who say they're about the gospel, and you should be, who say, I clep out of politics because I just want to be about proclaiming the good news of Jesus Christ. Well, man, one of the ways you proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ is you fulfill the cultural commission that God gave us, which is to fill the earth and subdue it. In other words, to bring the structure that's on this earth toward that which leads to human flourishing. That's what God did. When God created a world, he created a world that humans could flourish in. Sin has affected that, so redeemed people ought to work to reverse the effects of sin in the way we govern one another. So, hey, what about our Constitution, Rick? Our Constitution, in the Establishment Clause, it says, Congress shall make no law regarding religion, okay, the establishment of religion or the free exercise thereof. That was written into our Constitution, not so that the church would be separated from government, as is so wrongly quoted as a part of our Constitution, which if folks care, right? That came from a letter from President Jefferson to the Danbury Baptists, who were concerned that they were going to be oppressed by the Congregationalist majority in that state to keep them from practicing their Baptist faith. Okay? And Jefferson said, man, no, there's going to be a wall of separation between church and state. Jefferson rightly understood the Constitution, which is no surprise. And what he was saying is, hey, we're not going to have laws in Connecticut or anywhere in the Union that affects people from practicing their faith. So the Establishment Clause was not to keep Christians from being involved in government, but from government being involved in what the faith was. It was always understood that people of faith would have tremendous input into our society. In fact, our founding fathers said when that stops to happen, our democracy is no longer going to exist. And the reason that we are where we are is because so many believers have advocated their role of trying to bring about a structure, a governance, a politic. By the way, I love to tell people this. Politics is the root word in citizen, okay? What a citizen does rightly is what is polite, same roots, right? What is right is righteousness. So don't you think we should be concerned about righteousness?
Yeah.
I think so. That's why it says, learn to do good, learn to do right, and to see righteousness happen. Plato, way back when, man, I don't have a lot of Plato quotes memorized, but here's one. He said, the penalty good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. And so I'll tell you this, politics, We should never have a savior view of politics. We should never think that something that happens in any kind of political arena is our hope, but we ought to fight, okay, for that which brings hope to people. When you reprove the ruthless and you seek justice, that gives people hope that there is a wrong that is going to be stood against. In fact, that's the purpose of government. It is for the praise of those who do right and the prosecution of those who do wrong. And when we call good evil and evil good, which is what happens when non-righteous men rule, you're going to have anarchy, chaos, and sadness. It will not be a structure that leads to human flourishing. So we don't want to believe that our ultimate hope comes in any one political person or political party being in rule. We put our hope in a person, Jesus Christ, right, who informs the hearts of men that then, if those men rule, okay, not a certain party, but a certain type of people who humble themselves before God and who are careful to do according to all that is written in His Word, that's going to lead to the best of all possible societies. So we better get engaged, okay, or we better not complain. And the best thing you can do politically is to affect another citizen's life. So share the gospel, disciple them, model righteousness for them, be a good citizen, be exemplary, okay? Don't put your hope in a party, don't identify with a party, identify with Jesus. But you better be engaged and seek the welfare of the city in which you live. It's a travesty that we're not, okay?
Good stuff. Hey, listen, in the show notes, which you can find at realtruthrealquick.com, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can find those in our description of our show there. We're going to put a blog post down there that Todd wrote. To vote or not to vote, that is not the question. To vote or not to vote, that is not the question. And also a link to a previous episode that we did, how should a Christian vote if they don't agree with either candidate? I would encourage you to check those out. If you are watching on YouTube, there'll be a little subscribe button right now above my head. Click that button. You'll stay connected to all of our episodes that we release on a weekly basis. And we'll see you next week on another episode of Real Truth Real Quick.
See you, friends.